The Foreign Affairs Committee is now shy one less Ilhan Omar. The Republicans booted her off the committee, and the Democrats were very unhappy about this. You can see AOC went on a tear today. Cori Bush is back there just nodding away, saying, this is outrageous. And so we're going to go and listen to what these ladies from the squad had to say. We've got Ilhan Speaks, Rasheda Taleb Speaks. We'll take a look at the final vote. But first, let's figure out what Kevin McCarthy is thinking here. Why was he going to boot Ilhan Omar off? You know who Ilhan Omar is. She is this congresswoman right here, been the subject of a lot of controversy and a lot of provocative opinions over the last couple of years. Her, together with Rashida, Cori, and AOC, I think they call themselves #the squad. And so this is a big battle. They're going to be removing her? Oh my gosh, how could they possibly do that? Here's what Kevin says. He wrote on Twitter, he wrote this. He says, Ilhan Omar's past statements make it clear she is unfit to represent the U.S. on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Why? 3 points from Kevin. He says, 1, she repeatedly used anti-Semitic tropes. She described 9/11 by saying, quote, some people did something. And she compared America and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban. Yikes. Oh, okay, well, that's not a real good thing to, I guess, maybe say if you're a United States congressman, but maybe that's what her constituents want. The country is changing rapidly. Regardless, this is what Kevin McCarthy said about it when he was asked by the media. Hey, Kevin, are you really going to remove Ilhan Omar? Doesn't that make you even more of a racist white man than you already are?
She said the American military was equal to Hamas and to Taliban. From a member of the Foreign Affairs. She said Americans only like Israel because it's all about the Benjamins. And 3 years later, she said, I didn't know there's a trope when it comes to referring to someone who's Jewish with money. She said on 9/11, as a member of Congress, as an individual who's sitting on foreign affairs, something happened that day. What does that say to other people around the world? What does that say to somebody else who wants to create another 9/11 America? I'm sorry. It's not right. We were right in our action, and she can serve on other committees. But it puts America in jeopardy, and I'm not going to do that under my watch. And it's fair in the process, unlike them.
Bye-bye. So he said, you're gone. So, of course, that came up for a vote today. There was actually a resolution on it, and it was called the Resolution to Remove Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. You can see that right there. Now, before we get to the vote, there was a bunch of debate about this. A lot of people saying that, yeah, she's got to go. And there were other people saying, no, she's got to stay. We heard Kevin McCarthy's take on this. So let's see what Ilhan herself says and how she addresses this very resolution to remove her specifically. This is Ilhan.
This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker.
Not really. It's about your membership on a committee, just yours, not everyone's.
There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim.
Is that a photo of her? Did she bring her childhood photo with her?
It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black President, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident that former President Donald Trump led a birther movement that falsely claimed he was born in Kenya. Because to them, falsely labeling the first and only President of the United States of America a Muslim and African immigrant somehow made him less American. Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa.
Look at Cori Bush. Look at AOC in the background, all nodding their heads.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced. Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing. I am an American who was sent here, by her constituents to represent them in Congress, a refugee who survived the horrors of a civil war, someone who spent her childhood in a refugee camp, someone who knows what it means to have a...
All right, so you can see, you get the gist of it. So that's Ilhan Omar giving us her, her very, very passionate plea about why she's an American and why all of her plights are all, make her deserving of that committee position. But I think she forgot the fact that the Republicans are in charge, and if the Democrats are going to play these games with Republicans, well, the Republicans are going to play them back, and it kind of stings, doesn't it? But again, none of it is really relevant to anything that Kevin McCarthy said. The reason I started with Kevin is I wanted to see what his positions were. She says she used anti-Semitic tropes, doesn't think 9/11 is important, and says that Israel and Hamas are the same, and America and the Taliban are the same. All right. Well, those are great. Not one thing in there did he ever challenge her Americanness or her citizenship or any of those things. She turned it into that because she is sort of a big drama, a lot of dramatics and theatrics coming out of these types of speeches. But it's not really to the point. So she talks about representation, which is a fair point. She was elected by her constituents, and if they want her to say those things, they're going to keep re-electing her. That's true. But the country as a whole also elected and represented more Republicans than Democrats this time in Congress. And so what does that mean? That the Speaker of the House gets the power to decide the committee assignments. That's the rule. And so this isn't some travesty of like anti-democratic values or something. They're not removing some, poor immigrant who was abused growing up or suffered war or whatever from a committee assignment because they're racist white Republicans. This is because the Republicans are in charge, and that's how the balance of power works. So even though they want to, cry and wail like a bunch of whiners, it's just standard operating procedure in Congress. And if a Republican was doing this, then they would all, of course, say, well, that's nice, but you're going off the committee. You don't run things around here anymore. We do. But to carry on with a lot more of the crying, this is Rasheda Taleb, and she's going to be doing the same thing.
Censor Congresswoman Omar in the same week. They introduced a bill to ban federal employees from engaging in censorship. Where are the free speech warriors today? The hypocrisy is obvious to the American people. You are showing who you all are, really.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Omar will not be silenced.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Congresswoman Omar,
the gentlewoman's time has expired.
That our country is failing you today through this chamber. You belong
the gentlewoman is no longer recognized, and the gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
All the Democrats.
Gentlewoman from...
All the Democrats back there. That was so brave. Oh, my gosh. That was so brave. Oh, my gosh. She's crying from the rooftops. She got removed from a committee. Okay. Holy moly. All right. So before we get to AOC and Michael Lawler, let's check in with Cori Bush. Here's Cori Bush. You saw her nodding back there very aggressively. This is Cori Bush defending her friend Ilhan.
St. Louis and I rise in support of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. I've been to her district. I've spoken with her constituents. We visited marginalized communities globally together. This institution is better because of her leadership, and the Foreign Affairs Committee benefits from her perspective. So let's talk about what's really happening. Republicans are waging a blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar.
What?
And I've said it before, I will say it again. The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable. It is Congresswoman Omar who has been harassed at her job for simply existing as a Muslim woman in Congress. It is she who has been attacked by a member of this body, ridiculing her as a potential terrorist for simply existing as a Muslim woman in this Congress.
No, she said a bunch of stuff, and she's done a bunch of things. It's not that she just existed, Cori. She said 9/11 is something that happened, you know, and she said a bunch of stuff that outraged a bunch of people. And guess what? Democrats aren't in charge anymore. So she's not entitled to a committee position. And it's not an assault on Muslim women.
So rather than bring an actual accountability, any accountability to Congress, they bring this offensive resolution to the floor. This is just a bunch of racist gaslighting. We all know it. Vote no.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So those are very, very concrete, sophisticated arguments coming out of the squad so far. Let's turn our attention over to the Republicans to see what they have to say about this before we wrap up with AOC and the vote. This is Michael Lawler. He is a Republican out of New York, and he is offering a justification for the bill, explaining why Ilhan needs to be booted off the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's not because she's a Muslim woman. It's because she has said some things that are pretty dang offensive to a lot of people in this country. Lawler explains.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to speak in support of House Resolution 76. This is not about vengeance or retribution. It is about accountability. I represent New York's 17th District, home to one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. Between Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Dutchess counties, I represent almost 100,000 constituents that practice the Jewish faith. I take the scourge of anti-Semitism very seriously. It is something that must be rooted out in our society, as well as in the halls of Congress. No one who peddles in anti-Semitic activity, behavior, or language should have any right to serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which has an incredibly important role to play in partnering with our strongest ally, the State of Israel. Two of my predecessors, Ben Gilman and Elliot Engel, served as chairs of this important committee. Israel's continued existence as a beacon of liberty, democracy, and peace in the Middle East serves as a model for other nations in the region and is something we should be celebrating, not demeaning. Comments made by members of this body about support for Israel being all about the Benjamins, or that the State of Israel is engaging in apartheid, are appalling, wrong, and disqualifying. Additionally, those who dismiss 9/11 as some people who did something, are you kidding me? It was a terrorist attack. It wasn't some people doing something.
It's a pretty big deal that day.
Or to equate the United States and Israel, both democratic nations, to the Taliban and Hamas, and those who promote the anti-Semitic BDS movement, you're damn right they deserve to be held accountable.
That's right, Lawler. So he is firing back. And you can see a little bit of a different stylistic change there, right? You know, one side is kind of one way, and Lawler comes out and is a little bit more, you know, grounded, so to speak. And so here we have a final clip from AOC. And boy, she is fired up. So we'll listen to her before we check in with the vote and see how the House left it. This is it. AOC very unhappy that Ilhan Omar is about to be thrown off the committee. She is letting Congress know.
Thank you. Now, as a fellow New Yorker, I think one of the things that we should talk about here is also one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America. And this is an extension of that legacy. Consistency, there is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. I had a member of the Republican caucus threaten my life, and you all and the Republican caucus rewarded him with one of the most prestigious committee assignments in this Congress. Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened. Thank you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa. Jewish people have space lasers? What? Where did those come from? I didn't know that was even a thing. Man, that's pretty cool. All right, so she is very animated, as you can see there. And look at that little slap down at the podium. That's violent right there.
My life was threatened. Thank you.
Woo! That big booty Latina is fired up. Woo! Ay, ay, ay. Pretty good stuff there. All right, so AOC is going in hard. She does not want Ilhan Omar to be thrown off the committee. Let's see if the House voted to keep her on or to throw her off. Here's how the votes came out when they rang the gavel.
Is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. It's the opinion of...
Those are the Democrats.
It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to. And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
All right, so that was the motion being on the table, and then this is the vote. You can see time expires.
This vote, the ayes are 218, the nays are 211, with one answering present. The resolution is adopted.
Bye,
Without
Ilhan.
objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
By Ilhan, you see the final vote was 218 to 211 on agreeing to the resolution to remove Rep. Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. So she is now going to be gone. And of course, it was a spicy day in Congress. We're going to have a lot more of that. We will continue to cover it. The Republicans are back in charge of the House of Representatives, which means it's going to be fun ahead. So please do subscribe if you'd like to follow along as we cover a lot more of this. Don't forget to like this video before you hop on over to the next one, and we will see you there.